Hey everyone, it's Anthony Allen Ramos. All right, so advocate and activist Precious Brady-Davis is releasing her memoir. It's called I've Always Been Me. It's right here, and it comes out July 1st. In the book, Precious speaks openly and honestly, sharing stories about feeling different as a young child, growing up in foster care, her journey into coming into her identity, all the way into appearing on reality TV, getting married and becoming a mom. That's a lot, Precious. So congratulations on the book. How are you?
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you for having me. I'm so good. This is such a humbling moment in my life, and I really appreciate the chance to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and the book is so great, but what does it mean for you? I was thinking about this earlier today to basically have someone say, I want to hear your story. I want you to write a book. We think people should hear your story. What did that do for you in terms of confidence and maybe feeling validated, all of that?
It's absolutely humbling and affirming. As a child who grew up in foster care and was given up by my biological mother, my whole life I've sensed this place of feeling abandoned, and to be able to come to this place to share my story, and that there's interest in my story. It's so humbling, just because I was documenting my transition before people were doing that on social media. And it just so happens that people were seeing my transition before I was. I was just casually living my truth. I was a part of the original Facebook generation, just living my truth and going to college and, being gender nonconforming. But I think it gives hope to young people. I think it celebrates authenticity, and I think it encourages us to really embrace a spirit, and that's what this moment for me really means.
It's such a big moment, and I'm so excited that this book is coming out and people will be able to read it. Thinking back on, it's one thing to write a book if it's fiction, to write a memoir that's all true, to go back into those feelings, go back into those moments. What was that like for you? Because I know it wasn't easy for you growing up when you were little. I know you mentioned coming up in Omaha, Nebraska. I know then you were in a religious family and setting. What was it like to go back into those times and kind of open up those harder chapters of your life?
It was deeply hard to go back and revisit the most painful portions of my life, but I felt it was based in my healing. And I think so many times in our lives, we carry around trauma, and it's sometimes important that we release that trauma and we stop carrying it. But for me, it was so freeing. It was liberating. When I started writing this book, I had no clue that at the end I would become a mother.
Mm-hmm.
That was not my plan in writing this process. And since and as I was writing, as I was excavating my life, I found that I was mothering myself all along. And I think that often refers to the queer community with chosen family.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm most happy about is that this book has created an opportunity for me to have a relationship with my biological mother, which I did not see coming at all. But as a person who grew up in foster care, it was deeply healing and restorative for me.
What does that relationship look like? Because you mentioned that your biological mother obviously put you up into the foster care system when you were younger in Nebraska. How did you end up reconnecting with her?
So I reached out. When I was writing this book, I reached out to many of the parties just because I wanted to make sure that my memory, that it aligned with theirs. And for the first time in my life, I actually asked her what happened. I talk about in the book that a lot of the things that had come to me about my family history, it was through multiple people. And so to me, it was sort of truths. And I really wanted to know from her why. why did you give me up? Why didn't you raise me? And I talk about in the book, I found out that she was dealing with a mental health issue. And that gave me such a brand new lens of compassion for her. You know, here I was being raised thinking that I was just abandoned. And through writing the book, I realized that people can't give you what they don't have. And so at this current moment, it's about building the relationship one day at a time. And I'm not putting expectations on what I want our relationship to be. It just is building it day by day.
That's a very healthy way of looking at that situation. Thank you for sharing that. You did mention, of course, becoming a mom. I want to know how little Zane is doing.
She is doing so good. She just is like running around and mom, 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 mom. It was so cute. I was speaking at a press conference last week and I wanted Zane to be there. And of course, my husband, Miles, because it's Pride Month, and Zane the whole time, mom, 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 mom. And she's my mini me. She is my twin. She's such a diva. She's so theatrical. Who knows? She loves Sesame Street. She has her own choreography to all of the songs. She doesn't like it when mom sings along, but she's the joy of my life. And it's so crazy how fast they grow. I feel like I was just like holding her as a little baby in my hands and in my arms, and now she's on her way to being a toddler. And I'm like, time, slow down.
You are going to have your hands full, but I think in the best way. That's so great. I think it's so important that we continue to talk about trans love stories. And whenever I hear that term, I instantly think of you and Miles. And we got to see a little bit of that, obviously, with the reality shows and TLC and your road to becoming parents. Remind everyone how you two met and kind of just became this power couple.
So Miles and I were originally doing community outreach work here in Chicago. I was working at an LGBTQ center on the north side of Chicago, and Miles was doing LGBTQ work on the south side of Chicago. And so Miles wanted to further get involved in community outreach work. And so he came to the center where I worked at and knocked on the door. I didn't know who he was at all. And he knocks on the door, and at that time it was during some office hours, and I opened the door, and he basically jumped into that he wanted to collaborate and do work with trans youth on the north side of Chicago. And I basically like paid him dust after that, because there was like so many people who would come there and would want to do work with our young people, and I was very protective over that. And so after that, he like outed himself as trans to me. I was kind of shocked. I was kind of like taken aback because he had passing privilege and I had no clue. And so after that, he had pursued me. He had saw me at like multiple events, but it wasn't until I was going to this conference in Philadelphia, after I had sent him these long screed text messages. I'm a professional. I don't have time to date. And he literally came into my world as I was boarding a flight to Philadelphia. And it said, I can't wait to see you in Philly. And and it was just the subject line. And the email was blank. And my heart was like, okay, that was really debonair. Like, nice move, Miles. And so after that weekend, we went on a beautiful date, and we left Philly as a couple. And that's was almost a decade ago.
The rest is history. See, persistence and a little charm pays off, right?
Exactly.
I love that. Thinking about this book right here, everyone, July 1st, get it, pre-order it right now. I think there's so many important conversations and topics that people need to talk about when it comes to trans people. So what do you hope that people, whether they are a part of the community or whether they're maybe, looking just to learn more, what do you want them to take away from your story?
I hope that it runs in line with GLAAD's mission
Mm-hmm.
to accelerate acceptance. I remember being a young gender nonconforming child looking at my things in trash bags because my grandmother did not understand who I was, nor could she accept me. And that traveled with me for many years. And it was under the guise of religion and faith and God. God loves everyone. We as LGBTQIA people, we are divine people. That is the lineage of history. And so I hope that I am expanding the narrative of acceptance. We as trans people, we are not a monolith. And I hope that folks see trans people come from all walks of life. I'm a biracial girl who comes from Omaha, Nebraska. And I think that's important, especially when we're talking about the LGBTQ community. Sometimes we forget that there are people who live in rural places too, who are queer. And this book is about finding confidence in yourself, trusting your intuition. This book is about bucking the naysayers and following your path that is uniquely your own. And so it is my hope that people find confidence in their own stories. And I think we write ourselves into the narratives of history when we tell our stories. There aren't enough queer stories, especially when it comes to trans people of color. And so now I am a part of this great throng of history that pushes progress forward, that inspires the next generation to be fierce and visible.
You know, thinking about your story, and I was talking to someone yesterday, I think it's important to remind people that, you know, when it comes to self-acceptance and coming out, it's not like it just happens and then it's done. There is a journey that continues
Absolutely.
on. There are no rules. You can still be figuring out who you are after you come out, which I think, you know, is something that you know, have talked about and explained as well.
Absolutely. I believe that transition is inevitable and that we are all always transitioning to something anew. And that's one of the most beautiful things I think about being queer that I identify with, that I can be whoever I want, that I am a shapeshifter and that I am allowing myself to authentically unfold. And I feel that it adds to the richness of how I understand people and not just myself, of how I understand others, you know, that I have in this lifetime, that I have identified as gay, I have identified as queer, I identify as trans, I identify as non-binary, like all of these things that we can be fluid. And all of those things are forever in transition. And I think that gives people the freedom to be themselves and to throw labels outside the window, but to also claim who you are.
Absolutely. And I think it's so wonderful, you know, obviously, you know, we talk about, you know, the harder times in your life, but then there are so many triumphs and successes that you have. And I think it's so important that we show, especially the community and especially our transgender brothers and sisters like yourself, who are just thriving and successful and accomplishing and then living these wonderful lives and having children and getting married. So, I mean, I just think it's a wonderful story, and we're so happy that you continue to share it.
Thank you so much. That's what I wanted this book to be. I wanted this book to be a testament of love. And so often when we're talking about trans people, you know, we talk about only the trauma that we face. But yes,
Right.
this book is about my celebration of who I've always been.
Yes. All right. Well, Precious, thank you so much. And just a reminder, everyone, you can get this book. It'll be available July 1st. Precious Brady-Davis, I Have Always Been Me. You definitely will want to pick it up. And Precious, always great to see you. I can't wait to see you in person soon. I think it's coming soon. So let's pray
I'm
for that.
looking forward to it. Thanks for having me again, Anthony.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.